In 1995, an RAF Nimrod ditched into the Murray Firth. The aircraft had been on a test flight over the north coast of Scotland when an engine caught fire.
When did I decide to go for the ditching rather than the runway, which is getting closer and closer, 5-6 miles a minute? I don't know. It was one of these decisions that seemed to evolve in my brain. You're not going to make the runway. The only option really open to you is to go for the best chance of survival is in the water. That'll put the fire out. I thought at any time one of the fuel tanks was going to hit the flames, or the flames are going to hit the fuel, and we were going to go woomph.
The plane hit the water, going 146 miles an hour.
We bounced twice. The noise was out of this world. It was everywhere, and it was every noise I think I'd ever heard, amplified by 1,000-fold. And we stopped 3 miles off the coast, parallel with the coast.
Within minutes, an RAF rescue helicopter was on the scene.
Down came the guy on the winch. He landed right in the middle, and I'll never forget his words, Claire. He said, "Good morning, gentlemen. Would you like a lift anywhere?" And that was it.
That incident qualified Art and the rest of the crew to join one of the most exclusive clubs in the world, the Goldfish Club.
AF to appear. They didn't have long to wait.
It was formed in November 1942. Back then, you could only join if you were in the RAF, had ditched into water, and had survived by climbing into your dinghy.
It was the concept, an idea of a chap called Charles Robbie Robertson, who was not an aviator at all. He was the chief draftsman for a company that made rubber dinghies and Mae West life jackets called PB Cow and Co. And he noticed that there were a number of RAF crews in particular at that time that were ditching in the Channel, for example, having to use their dinghies, which kept them alive until they were rescued. And they would often return to the factory to thank the teams that worked there for keeping them alive or suggesting perhaps improvements they may have. And he was conscious, because obviously the pace of the war, 1942, that they didn't really get much leave. The survivors' leave was about a week, if that, because they were required to turn around and get back on ops. And he thought, wow, they've gone through quite a traumatic experience. Wouldn't it be great if they had a club where they could talk to each other? So that was the concept of the Goldfish Club.
By the end of World War II, the Goldfish Club had 10,000 members.
I guess of primary interest is the badge itself, so the winged fish over the waves. Now the badge always comes with 2 waves, but if you have a subsequent swim, then you qualify for a bar, which is shown at the bottom there.
The Goldfish Club, believed to be the longest running active military club, is still going, although the rules for membership have relaxed.
What you need to do is you need to basically take off and at the end of the day, so long as you don't come back in that aircraft and you end up getting wet in the process, then that qualifies you to be a member.
As you can see here.
All the newspaper cuttings.
Newspaper cuttings. Captain Cool.
Art definitely got wet. He's one of around 300 current members of the club.
The Goldfish Club gives me so much. It's having the ability to speak to someone, even if you don't, knowing that they've gone through a similar circumstance. I hope I repay a bit for what it did for me in the first few years. When I joined, there were predominantly Second World War veterans, and they were different. Their stories were not a matter of bringing a Nimrod down with a fire onto water. They were being shot up, coming back with wounds, members dead down the back, and then hitting the water, and then spending upwards of 7 days in a dinghy while they watched crew members die around them. How can you ever forget anything like that?
All members of the Goldfish Club have had a close shave with death. In 1998, a hydraulic leak on a Sea King helicopter caused it to catch fire. Jason was the observer on board.
The fire extinguisher is at the back of the aircraft. I knew I wasn't going to get to that, so the most logical thing to do was to try and put the fire out with my hands. So I endeavoured to do that and successfully set fire to both my hands.
The fireball spread to the front of the helicopter. The pilot decided to ditch and roll it to put out the flames.
At that point, I remember looking forward and seeing the aircraft fill up with water, and then it was that classic Dunker scenario of everything was at a bit of an angle, water was filling up, you take your last breath, and then the next minute you're underwater.
Jason got stuck trying to get out through the window, but eventually freed himself and made it up to the surface.
It was the best feeling in the world that we had all survived.
The benefits to mental health of talking about difficult experiences is now widely known. The Goldfish Club has provided a safe space for that since 1942, but numbers are dwindling.
With arguably fewer and fewer aircraft in comparison to the wartime numbers and the drive for safety, then the occasions for ditching are fewer and fewer.
And that can only be a good thing. Claire Sadler, Forces News.
If you enjoyed this video, don't forget to like and subscribe to our channel.